We stand against the motion because it introduces an elitist, exclusionary model that undermines democratic values and fails to solve the root of political distrust and political nihilism. Before we start to go to somewhere further, let's highlight about what the government side of the House has failed to prove in its motion. Allow me to point out several critical gaps in the government's case that must be highlighted today. That firstly, government side of the House has failed to prove the root cause of the political nihilism. They assume it comes from unqualified leaders, but they did not provide any clear evidence that a competency test will meaningfully restore public trust. They ignore deeper problems like systematic inequality, elite detachment, and lack of representation. Secondly, the government side of the House has failed to justify why the solution is necessary. Many alternative solutions, such as voter education and transparency laws, can solve the same problem without damaging democracy and inclusivity. Thirdly, the model that the government side of the House gave is too realistic without addressing the harm of its model. They never responded to the concern that competency tests and experience requirements will create something called as elitist gatekeeping. This is an attempt to disrupt democracy, reducing access to the government for ordinary people, especially minorities and grassroots leaders. These failures are something that we need to reconsider because they make the motion both unnecessary and even harmful at some point. In contrast, the opposition team believe that first, we believe that every citizen should have the right to access democracy government system transparently. The second one, we believe that the participation of being involved in governance should be inclusive. And the third one, we believe that focusing on voter empowerment will solve political nihilism without damaging democracy rather than candidate filtering. In the status quo, political candidates are generally elected through a democratic process based on public support. There are no formal competency tests or mandatory professional experience required to run office. Voters choose their representatives based on factors such as their vision, their track record, and their ability to connect with their people. The system allows open political participation, offering inclusivity for anyone from any background to run an office as long as they can gain the public trust. While the government side of the House might say that this system is imperfect, it is also a system that respects a democratic freedom, respect diversity in representation, and trust the people to make decisions about their own governance. This is the very essence of democracy. The big question is, should we stick with the status quo? We, as the opposition team, we believe that we should defend and improve the status quo, not to replace it with the elitist mechanism proposed by the government team. There are three reasons why we should stick with the status quo. That the first one, the status quo allows for everyone, regardless of any background, education, or profession, to participate in politics. This inclusivity ensures that leadership can reflect the real diversity of society. Young minorities, working class citizens, and grassroots activists, they all can join. The second one, in the status quo, it is the public who decides who is qualified to lead. That process might not always be perfect, but it protects what is called as political legitimacy, because leaders are chosen by collective will, not by passing an arbitrary test. Thirdly, we understand that problems like populism and distrust are real, but we can solve them through voter education and transparency reforms, and also institutional accountability, not by restricting who can run. Solving the problem with a more balanced, democratic way to fix what is broken without sacrificing the representation and democracy of a country. And to justify the status quo and to explain why the model given by the government side of the House is wrong, I will explain two arguments of opposition team. That firstly, we believe that this motion is endangering democratic values through elitism and exclusion. In democracy, political leadership must remain accessible to all, not just those who meet state-imposed standards. This motion introduces elitism and exclusionary barriers by requiring tests and professional experience, disproportionately benefiting the privileged while filtering out capable individuals like young activists, working class leaders, and marginalized communities. It shifts power from the people to institutions, undermining representation and weakening democracy. Even if it raises technical competency, it deepens political alienation, reducing public participations and erodes trust, ultimately harming the very legitimacy it claims to protect. And secondly, we believe that technocracy and test scores cannot solve the trust of people. The government side wrongly assumes that public distrust stems from a lack of technical knowledge in leaders, when in truth, trust is built on empathy, shared values, and lived experience, not test scores. People want leaders who understand about their realities, not distant technocrats. By limiting candidacy to those with academic or professional credentials, this motion removes the very qualities that foster genuine connection and trust of people and their leader. It creates a system that prioritizes performance over principle and presents politics with an exclusive elitist space. In contrast, the opposition team allows the public to choose and remove leaders, making it more democratic, inclusive, and capable of earning lasting public trust in long term. Now, before we compare our team arguments, let us review some of the government side of the House arguments. The first one, the government side claims that filtering candidates through tests and experience will ensure more competent leaders. But this misunderstanding, who is the nature of the effective leader, is very wrong. Competency in politics is not solely about technical knowledge. It is about communication, empathy, representation, and the ability to connect with and mobilize people. A test will never be able to measure moral courage or leadership under pressure. Their model risks filtering out passionate and capable individuals who lack formal credentials but possess the trust and support of the public. Their proposal sacrifices the first and grounded leadership for a narrow and elitist definition of qualified. Government side of the House argues that their model will rebuild trust in politics by showcasing candidates who are qualified, but this overlooks the root cause of public distrust, disconnection and exclusion. People lose trust not because leaders lack of degrees, but because they feel ignored, they feel unrepresented. By allowing only elites to run, the motion worsens this problem and reinforces the perception that politics is not for ordinary citizens. True trust is earned through relatability, transparency, and inclusion, all of which are diminished in their work. Therefore, their model risks deepening distrust rather than repairing it, offering a government system full of elitists and not inclusive. What differs the opposition team and the government team? The government side envisions a political system where only those who pass formal tests, have prior institutional experience can run the office. Prioritizing technical qualification offer public choice in the name of better leadership and restore trust. In contrast, our side defends a truly representative democracy where leadership is determined by people, not filtering by elitist standards. We believe values, empathy, and public trust matter more than credentials, and while the status quo is imperfect, change must come through inclusive reform, not exclusion. In conclusion, this House should not require a political competency test and minimum experience to run for public office. The government team has failed to prove that their model solves the real causes of the political nihilism while ignoring the serious harm of elitism, exclusion, and democratic erosion. And for this reason, we are proud to oppose.